What's a good word, everyone? It's your boy DKB here. I just want to say thanks for all the support. The channel's been steadily growing, and the number you see below, you can drop a text, shoot a voicemail, any ideas, topics, collabs, etc. you guys want to see. I'll include them in future videos and live streams, and I'll catch you again. Be easy. What's the good word, Jets fans? It's your boy DKB here, and we're diving into another member of the New York Jets 2025 undrafted free agent class. And quick FYI, I've highlighted this on our Discord server, but Tyler Barron is going to be the last draft class member that I need to do a breakdown for, and then I should be able to crank down Monday through Friday the rest of this UDFA class. So we should get to everybody in about the next two and a half weeks or so. Maybe I'll drop one here or there on the weekend. But with that said, there's still some intriguing names out there for us to break down. We have our IPP player that's on the offensive line. There's still a wide receiver member that's out there, safety Dean Clark, safety Jordan Clark. So we'll see what ultimately ends up happening, but nonetheless, the focus for today is South Carolina State linebacker Aaron, aka Boog Smith. And ideally, I just kind of envision him being a solid scout team warrior for us. I don't know if he ever sees the light of day when it comes to the 53-man roster outside of maybe call-ups when the injury bug is hitting, but this is somewhat of a lighter replica of what you get out of like a Quincy Williams, right? That undersized linebacker that has either underrated speed or at least the game speed looks excellent compared to whatever might be timed. And I think he can pull off a lot of the sideline to sideline things that we're looking for. And if he can clean up some things, I think you're talking about a player that will give you significant strong looks when it comes to trying to copy playbooks or get a feel for a type of player that maybe you aren't necessarily facing in defense during practice reps consistently, right? So with that said, 6 foot, 226 pounds is what we're looking at here with Aaron. It's not a ton of comps out there, right? But considering where he's coming from, you're going to hear Shaq Leonard a ton, and it makes sense from the genetic makeup standpoint, outside of the fact that, of course, Shaq Leonard was a decent bit bigger than what you get out of Aaron Smith. But former 3-star recruit, spent his time at South Carolina playing middle linebacker for them. The tape and the game speed for him, I do think, looks a good deal faster than what you get out of his time speed, which I think was just under 4.6 at his pro day. But nonetheless, I wouldn't say that he's going to be running 4.4 around the field or anything like that. But he clearly has the ability to play sideline to sideline, which is going to be an important piece. Was used in blitzing roles a pretty decent amount, and he's going to provide you a ton of special teams experience as well. So coming off of being a 34-game starter over his 4 years with South Carolina, kind of grew up in football, right? Which I would say at this point, you have a decent mix of some guys that have come on later, but they have high upside, and then guys that have been around the game for a while, have cut their teeth on special teams, and then offer the ability to potentially do a little bit more. And I think Aaron Smith kind of falls in that latter bucket. But former high school wide receiver, actually, but does have a soccer and a basketball background as well. So you get a feel for kind of the agility and the speed that maybe he plays with on defense. It's intriguing. The HBCUs are always ones that I loosely stay tapped into as much as possible, because Aaron Smith is a name that if you were to try to, check him out, he would be considered one of the premier athletes coming out of HBCU. So a ton of talent for them, just not a ton of guys that are getting highlights left and right and such. So did get a Shrine Bowl invite, ended up having a quad injury that he was trying to nurse that took him out of being able to actually participate, though he showed up for meetings. But he did play in the Celebration Bowl, where he stood out, had a breakout, I wouldn't even say a breakout game, but just really broke the game in general with 17 tackles and 1 for loss. He wrapped up his 2024 season with 95 tackles, 8.5 tackles for loss, a half sack, a forced fumble, a interception, quarterback hit, and 2 pass breakups to earn himself the first team All-MEAC accolade. And overall with him, it's tough because you have a linebacker room that needs some talent for future purposes, right? Who knows if we extend Quincy? Jamie Sherwood's going to be locked in for the next couple of years. And then guys have a ton of question marks after that, right? Can somebody like Zaire Barnes step up? Can Chad Surratt stay healthy enough, who was a big, underrated, loved, developmental player for Robert Saleh and company? Who's going to step up, right? Take that third linebacker rotation. Who knows how much, 4-2-5 kind of alignments and stuff that we're going to run. So there may be a bigger need in this case to make sure we do have that third person locked down, but also someone that we can groom to eventually replace a Quincy Williams if he doesn't stay around long term. And I think there's some things that you can find in his game that you really like, right? For one, he's capable of slipping blocks. I wouldn't say he's elusive. I wouldn't say he's overly powerful or anything with his frame. I wouldn't even say he's overly twitched up in how he beats blocks. It just seems like he's able to kind of slide and almost kind of feels like sometimes he has oil on like the shoulder pads and he's just kind of brushing off of people. He keeps his pads square to where the play is going to develop or where the ball is currently located when he's looking to attack. He's capable of reading quarterbacks' eye movements, which is important because he hasn't always done even a decent job in zone coverage. So you see this part of his game really develop over the course of his 4 years. And sometimes to a negative degree, he gets caught trying to look in the backfield too often. But it's an improvement in his game that's worth pointing out and noting here. And he demonstrated an ability to chase down plays from the opposite side of the field, right? So play side being wherever he would be lined up and kind of flowing to versus the backside. And so when you think about plays like misdirection or stretch plays and such, where maybe he's technically out of position or just lining up in a certain package, certain area, etc., he's quick enough to be able to get back over to the opposite side of the field and make sure that he can get a tackle for loss or that he's getting down the ball carrier. And that's always impressive to me. And a ton of teammates, I've seen a couple of comments from coaching staffs, etc., that highlight the relentless motor from this guy. The plays that you would be impressed with from him in the first quarter are the same plays that if they're there to be made in the fourth quarter, he's making them. And you always want your football team to be made up with guys that have that endless motor. Opportunities for him, I think he lacks the general playmaking instincts that I think you want to see out of a linebacker and recognition of plays, right? And the latter you can improve. The first, I think, just means that you aren't going to make the extraordinary plays as often as somebody that would shine at that position would be. And even for the ones that should be there, potentially you aren't making the play per se. Maybe you're just mitigating damage, right? Should be a more physical tackler as well, and you see this part of his game definitely improve, but it still feels like he's a guy that, because of his size, drags players down in order to secure the tackle more so than being a guy that can go out there and punish some people. So you don't love that, and I get shades of like Darren Lee and watching him try to blow up people and really just kind of like bouncing off of guys here and there. Change of direction ability isn't necessarily great, which is interesting because when you look at him, the lower body half, you can definitely tell he's put a ton of work into calves, hamstring, quads, etc. Definitely has lower body explosion, and it's not like he's a slouch up top, but again, with that size lacking, you don't want to necessarily be trying to hit guys high and stuff anyways. But you would imagine for someone that's worked on the lower half that you would also have a certain level of flexibility and maybe explosion that you can still squeeze out of that. But doesn't seem to happen too often just from what I checked out. And then his block engagement needs to improve if he wants to help out in the run game more, or at least be effective when he is out there. I think you see him relying on his speed a ton to beat blockers, not really utilizing his hands, not really utilizing really anything else that you want from a technique standpoint when it comes to being able to stand up a guy and try to help set an edge, or just keep somebody preoccupied to force them into another gap, or to even be that guy that needs to make that play where you should be able to shed a guy and go out there and make something happen. Weapons end up in his blind spot frequently enough. So tight ends, running backs. I think you see these guys often be able to kind of get into that hip pocket pretty quickly and then blow past him where he's still looking to try to read the quarterback's eyes, or he's not recognizing some of these route combinations that are happening to him, and so he's already caught out of place, and at that point he's trying to recover and play catch up, which is never great. And because I think he's so reliant on his speed, you'll see him overrun misdirections, stretch plays, even gap zones where a guy just ends up having a free hole, etc. And he's trying to beat that guy to the spot and ends up kind of overshooting it. So the only other comp that I really seen for him that makes sense just based on the build is Owen Papo, and that was a guy that was also undersized but did have a pretty good amount of speed to his game to try to utilize and coach up. So again, I'm not expecting a ton out of Aaron Smith. I hope for the best with all of these guys, right? To be pleasantly surprised or to even just need to go up and brush on evaluation skills a ton more. It's not a problem for me whatsoever. I want all of these guys to succeed, but he feels like a guy that just ends up probably making a living on practice squad and being a solid guy on scout team to give you the kind of looks and the player traits that you're going to look for to try to exploit in matchups. But let me know what you guys think. I'll catch you guys again. Peace.